Just come on. Let's see. Well, we left off in 1 Samuel chapter 23, right?
Yes.
That's where we left off. And I brought with us this morning. It looks like a big book, and that's because it's a big book. It's an atlas of the Bible. It's got like a whole bunch of different maps and all that, and different diagrams, and basically, it's a big picture book, and I like that.
That's my book.
That's later on, as we go through chapter 23, we're going to and get into 24. We're going to look at some of these pictures in this book, and that way we'll get a visual on some of the things we've studied so far. Like down here is all this green down here, this field, this big flat land. That's where a lot of these battles took place. It's where it's a depiction of where the Philistines and the Israelites came together, and where David fought Goliath and all that. So we'll go through that today. And I don't need all these sheets yet, so I'll just grab these two. Let's see. Well, before we get started in 1 Samuel 23 today,
Before you get through the book, I've got something more to share with you. Years ago, when I first started going to church, I hadn't been to church too long. I've not been baptized or not, but I had to go to the doctor and do my blood pressure test or something.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't read. However, you know how anybody's going to grab the magazine to look at it. And about the second thing I turned over, you know what it was?
What's that?
I seen this man. It was light. I seen him running, two women behind him. Then I seen the fellow saw to him, and bang he hit me. Remember what it was, that picture?
Mm-hmm.
That was sharp.
What was it? What was it?
It was light.
Oh, light.
They had him in
Okay.
a book. They had him in
Gotcha.
a book. It was a verse.
Oh, okay.
Bible verse. I know what it was.
Okay.
And I seen him leaving away the two women covered, two girls covered.
Yeah. His two daughters.
And when I turned the other page over, it was light, and turned to a fellow saw.
Pillar saw.
After you're.
And you still remember that, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah. We'll never forget it.
So you must be more of a visual type learner. Like you learn by seeing stuff, right? Do you also learn better by doing stuff with your hands?
The way we going for it.
Yeah, that's a kinesthetic. I remember when I went to college because I went to college to be a teacher and to study education, and there's three main types ways that people learn. Some people learn just by hearing,
Yep.
and that's auditory. Some people learn best by seeing things, and that's visual. And then there's some people that learn best by doing things. You know, it doesn't make sense to just hear stuff. It doesn't make sense to just see stuff. They have to actually do it with their hands, and that's kinesthetic learning. Me, most people are a blend of all the three. You know, a little of this, a little of that. I think I'm about 30% of each one. So, yeah. So I like to get hands on.
Moral of this story is
Yeah.
that no matter how much you see and how much you hear,
Mm-hmm.
you act it out.
Mm-hmm.
Think it.
Mm-hmm.
Think it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm glad that you saw that because you'll never forget that, will you? And how long ago was that?
Over 35 years ago.
And you still like you just turned that page today, right? And that's what it's all about. Now, before we get started today, would you like to pray? Give us our opening prayer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we stand before thee this morning. We pray that you forgive us of our sins and guide us. And dear Lord, we awful thankful for having the three souls come forward Sunday morning. We pray that you bless and guide them with one common servant. And anyone else this morning sick, shut in, we pray that you bless and guide them. And again this morning, gracious Lord, we thank you for the young minister and most of all his wife and new child that they got. Pray you bless and guide them with their journey, wherever it may be. They're being edification of you. And dear Lord, we pray this morning for us, it's what's here, we pray that you'll listen with open ears and most of all, open hearts. And these prayers, we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Well, this morning I need to turn over to the right Bible verse here. Can y'all see that on there, I guess? I'm just going to be opening up. What am I saying? Oh, that's Second Samuel. So, what did we see? We're going to start at the beginning here today. What did we see in chapter 21? We saw David. He was hungry, right? And he was defenseless, right? So, what did he do?
He went to the priest.
Okay, you guys remember what the priest's name was?
Amalek or something like that?
Very close. Ahimelech, right?
Ahimelech.
Now, Ahimelech was a nice guy or a mean guy?
Oh, he was a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. How do we know?
Because he fed him and he gave him weapons.
Okay. He fed David what?
Showbread.
Showbread. What's the problem with that, though?
It's holy bread.
Was that for David to eat?
No, that wasn't common. That was for the priest.
Right. And then Frank, what type of weapon did this nice priest Ahimelech give to David?
Goliath's sword.
Goliath's sword. Now,
That he didn't want earlier.
yeah, that he didn't want. The same sword that who didn't want earlier? David. But how in the world did the Israelites get this sword anyway? Who gave it to them?
David took him.
David took it
After
and
he killed Goliath.
yeah, with his own sword, right? So how did David get these things from Ahimelech, the nice guy?
He lied to him.
David lied to somebody?
Mm-hmm.
What? But David, you can't. I mean, David lied to somebody?
He
To-
lied twice, not just once.
Not just once. So you mean to tell me after he lied to fill his belly, and after his belly got filled on food he shouldn't have ate, he lied again to get the sword?
Yeah.
Well, what did he do after that?
He went to the Philistines.
You mean the mortal enemies of his own people? The people he had been slaughtering in the thousands and the 10,000s? You mean those people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where did he go? He went to the Philistines, but where did he go?
Yeah.
Gath. Yes, and where? That was in verses 10 through 15 of chapter 21. Now go over to chapter 22, or what happened in Gath? Should I say? Why was he there?
He was there 6 sanctuary.
Okay, what was the king's name?
Oh, now that I don't remember.
Starts with an A. Achish.
Age.
Okay, so why was he there trying to gain asylum? Why was he trying to get safety?
Saul was accurate.
Saul's after him. And was Saul just trying to punish him and throw him in jail? He's going to kill him because he was jealous of him and he saw him as a threat. So Saul is chasing him. He's on the run. He's lying for food and defenses. He's trying to go to his enemies, his former enemies' own home city with the sword of their most famous celebrity, their most famous warrior that he killed and chopped the head off of with his own sword. Now he's carrying that sword in the middle of the city. So how'd that work out for him?
Didn't look out too good.
So what did he have to do to get out of that situation? Huh?
He acted crazy.
He acted like a lunatic. He acted like a rabid animal, right? So then what did the king Achish say? I'm reviewing this because it's going to come back again. So what did the king say?
He didn't want to talk to him because he was crazy.
Yeah.
He was,
So what did he tell his servants to do? See,
more or less, you handle this.
yeah, get him out of here. I don't have anything.
More or less,
I can't do anything with a crazy man, with a wild dog. All right, so now we go over to chapter 22. How many people? Where did David flee to after Gath? Adullam, which is
Okay.
it's an area with mountains and caves, but where? Where's it between?
In between the Israel and the Philistines.
Right. Okay. So he's in the caves, he's in the mountains, he's hiding out, and then all of a sudden, who shows up on his doorstep?
Mom, dad, brother, sister.
how many other people?
400.
400 people. Were they there to kill him?
No, that's there to join.
Join him for what?
Fighting Saul.
Fighting Saul. Why? What did they have against him? They were turning against their king.
They were debtors. There was anything that
Malcontents.
they
Yeah. All these different reasons. The Bible gives us a whole bunch of reasons as to why each of these people had something against. They had a legitimate reason, right? They didn't just say, we don't like Saul, so we're gonna cause a mutiny, right? Or a coup, right? We like David better, so we're just gonna. That's not their reasoning. They had legitimate reasons, right? Okay, so let's see. So the 400 men. All right, now it flashes over in chapter 22, verses 6 through 12, and it flashes over to Saul, right? And he rebukes his servants, right? Now Ahimelech is accused of conspiracy. You guys remember that from 13 through 16? And who was Ahimelech?
the priest
The priest that
fed him and gave him weapons.
Now, he did that for David. Now, he kept the king's enemy alive, and he gave him the most coveted piece of weaponry in the land and sent him on his merry way. How do you think that looks to the king?
That he was siding with David.
Right. And was he interested in hearing Ahimelech out? Ahimelech's like, I didn't know. He lied to me. I didn't know. But what did we talk about? Ahimelech, if he had done his job as a priest and followed God's orders, he would not have done what for David?
He would have done any of it.
Any of it. So, yeah, Ahimelech was a nice guy and he helped somebody out. But if he were doing what he was supposed to, then he wouldn't have got himself in this situation. How did that work out for him?
He died.
He died, and who else?
His family and all the priests.
All the priests and all their families. Thousands of people were slaughtered because of Ahimelech's decision to help David, based on David's lies. So we remember David didn't have to pay for that. Didn't have to pay that cost. He felt bad later, but who cares how he feels? The damage is done. And what do I mean by the damage is done?
And they've already died. People's already been killed.
Thousands of people have been killed because David lied. I mean, and we spent a good amount of time talking about the consequences of one sin can lead to untold amounts of damage down the road, right? And you may never. David didn't even see the tip of that sword, that fell upon all these other people. But anyway, he was responsible nonetheless. So Saul ordered the priest to be slain in 17 through 19 of chapter 22, and then Abiathar escapes in verses 20 through 23. So let's read those 20 through 23 real quick of chapter 22. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priest. And David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. Abide thou with me, fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be in safeguard. So now David says what to Abiathar?
Stay with me, you'll be safe.
Stay with me. Yeah, but before that he says,
I'm the reason they all died.
right. And he's talking about who? How is Abiathar related here?
And he's Ahimelech's son.
Right. And David basically looks at him and how would you like to go up to somebody and you tell them, hey, everybody's been killed. And then the guy says, oh man, I can't believe it. I should have known that rat Doeg, that rat who was there in the midst of us would have gone and ratted us out. I should have known better. I'm so sorry. I'm the reason all of your family and friends have been killed. You put yourself in Abiathar's shoes now. I mean, whew. Now can Abiathar go back home and just live a normal life? No. What is there? There's nothing. And also it says, and David says that if you go back home, the king who's trying to kill me and has killed all your family is just going to try to kill you again. He's going to be out to kill you for the rest of time. And so at the end of 1 Samuel chapter 22, that's what we see is David says, so, I'm sorry I put you between a rock and a hard place, and so you might as well just stay with me. I'll do the best I can to keep you safe. And so David's trying to do something here, right? I mean, Ahimelech saved him, and now in his time of need, and now David's trying to save Abiathar, Ahimelech's son, in his time of need, right? Even though David's the one that got him in this situation. So now we're ready for chapter 23. Okay, let's read verses 1 through 8. I'll read the first. We'll do 2 at a time this time, okay? Each of us will do 2 at a time. We're in 1 Samuel 23. Then they told David, saying, behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, go and smite the Philistines, and save Keilah.
And David's men said unto him, behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Then David inquired of the Lord yet again. And the Lord answered him and said, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thine hand.
So David and his man went to Keilah and found and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to pass when Abinadab the son of Ahimelech fled to David in Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand.
And it was told to Saul that David was come to Keilah. And Saul said, God hath delivered him into my hand, for he is shut in by entering into a town that hath gates and bars. And Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah, to besiege David and his men.
Okay, so in verses 1 through 8, what do we see here?
David fighting.
David fighting. Let's go back to verse 1. Then they told David, saying, behold, the who fight against Keilah?
Philistines.
Where was he just at?
Gath.
Gath of the Philistines. And so they're doing what?
There says threshing floors, so look like they're harvesting.
Yeah, they're robbing the threshing floor. So what does that mean? They're taking the stuff, right? All right. So therefore David inquired of the Lord. What does that mean?
He asked God.
He's praying, right? Shall I go and smite these Philistines? So isn't that interesting? After all that David's been doing, even after the mistakes he's made, he's still, now you see him turning to the Lord. And we saw David trying to take things into his own hands, and how'd that work out? He got a whole bunch of people killed, right? And he's been on the run. And so now he's praying to the Lord and asking him, Lord, should I do this or not? I want you to guide me. I mean, isn't that, how easy is David's life right now?
It's not.
It's not very easy. So can we learn anything from this right here? Just those few little words. Therefore, David inquired of the Lord. 6 words. Could we learn anything knowing his situation?
No matter what, seek God's guidance.
Right. No matter how bad we have it, seek the Lord and His ways. No matter how bad we've messed up, and we need to own it first. I mean, He's already owned it. We saw that at the end of chapter 22. We need to own up to it, and no matter how bad we've messed up, we still need to go to Him in prayer. Right. Now, okay. Therefore, David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and smite the Philistines? I mean, you see the confidence in him? He's like, should I go and smite them? He didn't say just go and battle, right? It is smite. And the Lord said unto David, go and smite the Philistines and do what?
Save Keilah.
Okay, is Keilah a person?
No, it's a city.
Right, it's a people, right? So, and David's men said, how many men does he have?
600.
But yeah, between 400 and it's bumped up to 600, so somewhere around that number. He's got hundreds of people to say unto him what? Let's do this thing, right? Well, look at it. Look at what they said. David's men said unto him, verse 3, behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? So these people, they're skittish. They have a reason to fight, and that's the reason why they got up and left. But when we saw them in chapter 22 amassing with David, did it mention that these were the greatest warriors?
No.
Did it mention that they were the highest people of the land, that were blessed and thick of skin and all that stuff? No, it says these are the people that were done wrong by the king, right? And if we remember back to when Samuel first warned the people in like chapters 6 through 8 and all that, what did Samuel warn the people would happen if they got a king? Do you guys remember?
And he'd have groups, and he'd have them servants.
Yeah, he would set up army divisions of the military. He would have divisions in his court. He would have certain, he'd have bakers and confectionaries and all these different type of people, and he would cause a division. A kingship would cause division in the land. There would be a lower class and a higher class, and the line would be clear. And the lower class would have to pay for the higher class. This is what he's told them. Is there anything different about that today? Not much. We see most of these people who have amassed with David are of which class? The ones that are getting paid by Saul or getting treated right by him?
No.
The lower ones that have been done wrong. So it's understandable why they might be a little skittish, right? Even though they're clearly the ones that have a reason to fight, and we've talked about that before, how they have done this. They've joined this coalition on their own accord. They weren't forced into it. So they have a reason to fight, but is it always the case that the most motivated, the athlete or the soldier that has the most motivation, is it always the case that they always win or they're always ready? Not always the case. So we're gonna see a change in them later, but right now they're sitting there saying to David, "Hey, we see you're praying to God, and God said, hey, let's go out to battle, but have these guys been battle tested yet? Not that we know of." So,
Hey, it wouldn't have made no difference no way, because God said it.
God, yep, that's exactly right.
If you got the power of God behind you, it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have made no difference no way.
Right, and they're going to find that out. But remember, these are the people who have been under Saul's leadership, right? And what have they seen in a leader? They've seen some victories, yeah, but they've seen a leader who has gone away from God. So they're still trying to, they're with David now, who's started making some mistakes, but overall he's a man of God. So these people are caught, they're in a unique situation, and we're going to see them get in a better situation. But right now they're telling them, hey, it's all fine and dandy that you're talking to God and you guys think we can go do this, but we're scared right where we're at and we're not fighting. And you want us to go down there and fight against the Philistines? We're going to get even more scared. So, what is it? It says, how much? Yeah, so that's what he's saying in 3. Now, David does what?
Goes to God in prayer again.
Why? After he heard the people say this, did David just open his mouth and start talking to the people?
No, he went to God first.
Right. Now, and the Lord answered him and said, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thy hand. You guys remember how Joshua and the Jews took Jericho? You guys remember that? You guys remember what God said to them beforehand?
And he would deliver them into his hands to do as he says.
Yeah. He said,
But you gotta do what he said before they're delivered.
right. He says, I've already done it, man. You guys already own the city. I've already given it to you. You just got to go take it the way I told you to take it. So now, is there anything different between those hundreds of years, before and then now? No. Is it so? Did God change His tone? Did God change His message? He says, "Okay, you want this? I told you to do it, and you said you want it, so go get it." I don't see what's so hard about that, right? Now, flash forward 3,000 years, actually, because this is about around 1000 BC. Flash forward 3,000 years to today. Has God changed His message? What do I mean by that?
I mean, you still, go ahead.
He's not changing word. He's not changing word.
God.
You hear people want to change His word, but God's word not changing.
Now, here, what I'm getting at is, God told Joshua and the Israelites, the Jews, concerning Jericho, He says, "I've already given you this gift. I've already given you this prize. Just go take it. But you got to do it the way I said." He's telling them, "Hey, go down there and fight for Keilah," to David and his people, right? He says, "I will deliver the Philistines into thy hand. I'm going to give you the victory." But can they have the victory just sitting there doing nothing?
No.
Being comfortable where they're at? And they're not even comfortable where they're at. They're scared. But what about today? Hey, I've given you salvation. God says, I've given you salvation. I already died for you. Jesus says, I've already died for you. I've paid the cost. You had a bill that you couldn't pay, and I paid it for you. But you gotta go get the proof. You've got to go get that stamp of approval put on you. I'm not going to come. I can't do anymore. Jesus, he's sitting there on the right hand of God, sitting on His throne, ruling the kingdom, and He's saying, "Hey, I've already given you salvation. You just got to. I went 90. You go 10. You know what I mean?" And so that's what I'm getting at. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. I just kind of came up with that example on the fly there, but does it make sense? I think so. Okay. Now, if I'm ever off on something, then you just throw a hymn book at me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So, okay. Man, you guys must be asleep, man. You guys didn't even laugh when I said you hit me with a book, man. Okay, so David goes to save Keilah, is what we're looking at in the first 8 verses here. So David went to Keilah, verse 5, and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So David saved who? Saved them. And it came to pass that when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. It's like a rod, isn't it? Something like that.
I thought it was a freeze linen.
So, that's right. I'm thinking of, what am I thinking of?
I think that's step over. Like a rod.
Yeah, there's a word that they use in the Old Testament. I cannot remember. I was thinking of the wrong thing.
I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah. I don't know. It was one of those momentary. Yeah, you're right. So he's got this linen, and if I would have kept reading, it would have made sense. And it was told to Saul that David came to Keilah, and Saul said, "God hath delivered him into mine hand." So think of the king sitting there thinking this. He's sitting there. Oh, look, he's finally popped up, right? And Saul, that idiot, is he? How am I able to confidently say he was an idiot?
He thinks God delivered David to him.
And why is that not a smart thing?
Because God is with David. He's no longer with Saul. He's
Right.
with David.
God's not doing any of this to help Saul, but Saul thinks he is. This is how delusional this guy is. for he is shut in by entering into a town that hath gates and bars. This is why he's so excited. This is why Saul thinks, oh, this must be miraculous. This must be God telling me that, I'm good with him and David's no longer. Because how in the world is David going to pop up so conveniently out in the public in a city where I can just trap him and he can't get out because it has gates and bars, right? And Saul called all the people together to war to go down to Keilah and besiege David and his men. What does besiege mean?
Besiege.
What is siege? To siege a city or to besiege?
That's to surround it and cut it off and starve it.
Mm-hmm. To lay siege. It is to surround and harass, right? Now, later on, we're going to see the city of Jerusalem besieged by, was it the Assyrians or was it the Babylonians? Anyway, we're going to see the city of Jerusalem besieged by a nation, this is later on, that has never been stopped. And a heathen nation that hasn't been stopped. But Jerusalem fights them off because they had an underground. Because when you besiege a city, you take their water supply and you cut it off. And if they can't, even if they were growing crops inside the walls of their city, they can't, without water, they can't do it, right? So now, but later on, Jerusalem, we'll see it later, but we'll see Jerusalem, they build this underground river. From miles away, they have the water come in, and then it goes underwater, and they get it from the wells that go underneath the city. So that's pretty cool. But here, Saul, he's all happy and jumping for joy because why? He thinks he's got David in a what? In a pickle, yeah, a trap. So it's like when you're out hunting, right, Zeke, and you got a trap, and and you got the bait laid out for whatever you're hunting, and when they get into this certain area, there's only one way in, and then you're covering that exit so they can't get out. Well, you've been hunting this. You hunt hog. You've been hunting this thing for days, and you finally got it right where you want it. Are you gonna be happy? Why? Because you know what?
Your plan comes.
Yeah, I'm eating bacon tonight, right? So this is what Saul is like. I mean, and imagine the hatred that you might have, that Saul has for David. How happy this might make him. But anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, Frank, do the next two verses, 9 and 10.
And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring hither the ephod." Then said David, "O Lord, God of Israel, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake."
Okay. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Saul come down as thy servant hath heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant, and the Lord said, he will come down. And said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up.
Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah, and went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbade to go forth. And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ephah. And Saul saw him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand.
And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood and strengthened his hand in God.
And he said unto him, Fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth. And they two made a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house.
Then came up the Ziphites to Saul to give him saying, does not David hide himself with us in the strongholds in the wood, in the hill of Adullam, which is on the south of Josamah? Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him to the king's hands.
Read 21 through 24 for me. You do 2, and then Shannon will do 2.
And Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know, and see this place, where his haunt is, and who has seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly.
See therefore, take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself, and come ye again to me with certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I shall search him out throughout all the thousands of Judea. And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, and in the plain of the south of Jeshimon.
Okay, now let's go back to verse 9. And David, amen. And David knew what?
That Saul was looking for him.
Okay. And he said to Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, but Abiathar, we know about these times throughout history. The sons would take over the reins of the father, right? In most jobs, especially the Levitical priesthood. So Abiathar is now, how many priests are there in the nation now?
One, Abiathar.
Yeah, that way from where he was at, and Samuel's still alive, but he's not on the scene where they're at right now. What did he tell Abiathar to do?
Bring the ephod.
Okay, and I forgot I had this dictionary that works offline now. So an ephod, a sleeveless garment worn by Jewish priests. So you were right, Frank. I messed that up earlier. I don't know which word I was thinking of.
I tried to look it up. I didn't pull up anything.
But you know what I'm talking about. Like there's a one that's very similar.
Yeah.
But
I tried to do it. I was Googling that.
yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll come to me sometime next year, and I'll get back to you. I'm just kidding. Then David said, verse 10. Oh, all right. Who's he talking to?
He's talking to God.
Okay. So he was just talking to Abiathar. He told him to bring the ephod. Now David's talking to God. He's praying. Thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy. Who's the servant he's talking about?
David himself.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? So this celebrity who has this mass following, this super soldier who's never lost and has killed tens of thousands of people, he calls himself what? A what? Say it loud, man. Say it loud. Servant. Man, can you imagine how great it would be if even one of our famous celebrities or famous soldiers today would pray to God openly and before everyone in the country and say, I am your servant. It's not about how much money I have. It's not about how much fame or how much honor or talent or skill I have. I'm your servant. You're better than me. Can you imagine that? It's amazing. I just love looking at these little words in, that's one word in the whole verse, in one book of the Bible. And so powerful. What do you think about that, Joseph? Yeah. You awake yet? Good. I'd hate to make you run 5 miles to wake up.
You think that too.
It says, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. What does that mean? I've heard that the guy who's trying to kill me, Saul, is going to come here, and what is Saul willing to do?
Kill everybody.
Kill everybody for what?
David.
For David. To just run him out. He's willing to take this city, surround it, and kill everything on its way in to make David he doesn't care. Saul just does not care about anything other than kill David. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will the people that I just saved, are they going to give me up to save their own skin? Will Saul come down as thy servant hath heard? O Lord, God of Israel, I beseech thee, I beg thee, tell thy servant, tell me. And the Lord said, what?
He will come.
He will come down. Then David said, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said,
They will.
they will. So you mean these people of Keilah are going to be ungrateful ingrates, and they're going to be jerks, and they're going to let me come in there and save their skins, and then just to turn right around and turn me in? Are you kidding me? That could be a legitimate reaction from David, right? I mean, it could be, but David's a horse of a different color, right? So then said David, never mind. Yeah, then David and his men, verse 13, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah and went whithersoever they could go. So they knew that if they stayed there, that they were going to get betrayed, right? This was a foregone conclusion. How do we know?
I told you so.
God said it. He's like, yeah, you saved them just like I told you. And you won the battle just like I told you. You did great. You saved all these people's lives. But they're more afraid of Saul than they are thankful to you. So they're going to turn you over. They're not willing to die for you. So obviously it's a smart move if David knows that he and his men, all of his people, would be killed in that trap, in that city that's got bars and gates. It's smart for him to do what?
Leave.
It's smart for him to leave. Get out of the trap before it's sprung. And where'd they go?
Wherever they could.
Wherever they could, whithersoever they could go. And it was told, Saul was told that David escaped from Keilah, and he forbore to go forth. Okay. What does that word mean? Oh, doesn't have it. Anyway, and David abode where? 14?
In the wilderness.
Where else?
In a stronghold.
And
Remained in the mountain wilderness of Ziph.
okay. And Saul sought him how often?
Every day.
But God did what?
Delivered him not into his hand.
Delivered him not, kept him safe, right? In verse 15, and David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness in Ziph in a wood. And Jonathan, Saul's son, David's brother-in-law and
Friend.
best friend, Jonathan got up and went to David in the wood and strengthened his hand in God. Interesting. Jonathan's with his daddy, right? On this march to seek, and to eradicate David. But is he playing along with it?
Nope.
No. Is he doing this in secret?
Yep.
Sometimes sometimes he's not telling his dad, hey, I'm having secret meetings with David, and I'm helping him. He's not telling him that stuff. But sometimes he does straight up tell his dad, hey, I'm not going to participate in you trying to kill him without a good reason. You guys remember him saying that before, standing up to his daddy, saying, it's not just because he's my best friend. I'm going to do this for anybody. I'm not going to stand by while you kill an innocent citizen. If he's guilty, he's guilty, and I'll help you out. But daddy, you got to prove your case, man. But anyway, it's interesting. Jonathan knows David so well. He's able to just go find out where he's at right there, right? He knows how he thinks. He knows how he does things. And there's probably an open line of communication. But even if there wasn't, it would not surprise me one bit that Joseph, do you have a friend, like a really, really good friend, like you know how they think on a lot of things? Like your teacher or somebody could ask you a question, and you could ask the same question to that friend, and you could basically answer that question for your friend and be 100%. Yeah, you could just know, hey, where's your best friend at? What's your friend's name? Yeah, what's your who? Okay, where is he right now? Okay, Jonathan, David. See what I mean? Jonathan, this is how close they are. See what I mean? Again, they may have an open line of communication. They may have a messenger between them, something. I don't know. But either way, this is how well they knew each other. And he said unto him, Jonathan said unto David, Fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel. Frank, real quick, Jonathan is telling David that David is going to be king over Israel. What's interesting about that?
Could have been Jonathan.
And isn't that interesting? That's powerful right there. And I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth. So, verse 18, and they two made a covenant. The two of them made a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Then came up the Ziphites to Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the woods, in the hill of Hakilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? So these people, the Ziphites, come up to Saul saying, don't you know that dude you're looking for is over here? I mean, he's hiding where? Where did it say before this that David was hiding with his men? In strongholds in the wilderness, in these mountains, right? Okay. And then these Ziphites come up to the king and say, don't you know that David is hiding in strongholds in the wilderness, in these mountains? What's wrong with you? And so, and it gives it a very accurate description. Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. You guys ever heard the term suck up? I mean, there's worse terms, and I'm not going to use that, because it's, language unbefitting of a Christian, and also there's children here. But these guys are sucking up to the boss, right? And Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me. So Saul is very thankful, isn't he? So he's still got some humanity to him. He's still thankful to people that help him out. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see his place where his haunt is, and who has seen him there? For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly, quietly, stealthily, cunningly. See therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself. So, what does that mean? Saul's telling these Ziphites and his people to go to this place and do what? Okay. Every place that he would.
He's lurking, hiding.
You guys ever heard, Jared, you boys ever heard of that phrase, leave no stone unturned? What does that mean?
I mean, just like search everywhere.
I'm looking for my lost dog. Leave no stone unturned. What does that mean?
Look everywhere.
Look everywhere. I know that my dog cannot fit under a rock. a pebble, but turn that pebble over and look underneath it anyway. See what I mean? Like, that's powerful. So he's telling these people, leave no stone unturned. Look for him. Take knowledge of the lurking places where he hideth himself. And come ye again to me with certainty. So go find him. Make sure of where he's at, and then come to me, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul. But David and his men were in the wilderness of Moab, and the plain of the south, on the south of Jeshimon. So they said up here earlier, where was it? Which is on the south of Jeshimon. They told him that's where he was. The hill, the strongholds in the woods and the hills south of Jeshimon. And then what does it say? And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul. But David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. So, close. They're very close, in the same vicinity. Saul also and his men went to seek him, and they, see, we're almost done with chapter 23 here. And they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. Okay, so what are we seeing here? He told the people, these people came and told him what?
Find David.
What did he tell them?
When you're sure that's where he's at, come back and let me know and I'll go get him.
So what did they do?
They went looking.
And then what did they find out?
That's where he was.
Okay, so now what's happening?
They went back and told him where he was.
And now what's happening?
Saul went to get him.
Okay then. So he's going after, hey Lucy. So he's going to go get him. Okay. And Saul went on the side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain, and David made haste to get away for fear of Saul. For Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. You guys remember what that word siege or besiege means? What does it mean?
Passed out.
It means surround a city, right? The city's not going to move. And so to siege it is to go all the way around it and close its circle. So what does it mean to compass? Joseph, what is a compass? If I say use your compass and tell me where north is, what is a compass?
It's something that helps you find your way.
Yeah, it's a navigational thing. Is that what we're talking about here? Alright, what about, think of a different one. Jared, do you still, what grade are you in? Third? Okay, so they probably have you do this. Have you ever seen those little things in your little pencil holders, your little marker things? You put a little pencil or a pen in it, and it's got a pointy needle on it, and they call it a compass. You guys remember that, Joseph? You know what I'm talking about? Do you have one of those? Where you stick the needle in the middle,
Yeah.
and then you take the pin on the outside, and then you go in a big circle, or you can, right? What do you do? If you set it to one angle, and then you go all the way around, what do you make? A complete circle. When it says that's the compass that we're talking about, we're not talking about north, south, east, west type thing. We're talking about the second one, where you make a circle. So when I say King Saul and his men compassed David and his men, what does that mean? What does it mean? If I say one guy's army compassed another man's army, what does it mean? Circled them, surrounded them, right? So if I take that compass and I make a blue line around a little stick figure in the middle, and that stick figure can't get out without crossing that blue line, or if I want to get that stick figure out, what do I have to make them do? I have to make them get past that blue line. So here's what I'm talking about here. I'm just trying to make a modern day application for this. So they're on the side of a mountain. How is that a pretty good battle terrain? It's pretty inconvenient to fight on the side of a mountain, right? And so this is where all this is happening. Now, is David is a great warrior. David's never been defeated. David's never even had to worry about anything, but do we see him sweating a little bit here? Why?
He's surrounded.
Yeah. And Saul's got him, right? I mean, we're talking about a rock and a hard place right now. I mean, he's literally on rocks, on a hard place. He's on the side of a mountain, and he's surrounded. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than this.
He's also outnumbered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And and he's also. Does he want to fight Saul?
No.
No. Has he tried? Has he? Huh?
I think that's a big factor there, that
Yeah.
you don't really want to fight Saul.
Mm-hmm. Now, if this were Philistines or enemies, an enemy army that David had no qualms fighting against, no problem fighting against, do you think this terrain would have made any difference? You think being outnumbered would have made any difference? The dude pegged Goliath in the head with a rock and then cut off his head with his own sword. This guy is not fazed by armies much, but this is a different situation. Not only is he outnumbered and surrounded, but he's outnumbered and surrounded by his own people. He don't want to kill them, and he still wants to make things right with Saul. But there came a messenger unto Saul, saying, Haste thee, and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land. So Saul's got him, right? Saul's got him. And now what do we see? We see this army closing in, and then we get a message right before he gets David that their bitter enemy, the Philistines, are invading the land. Wherefore Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore they called that place, I'm not going to pronounce that, Selah Hamalecah. And David went up from thence and dwelt in strongholds in Gedi. So, all right. We see David was about to be caught, and how in the world did he get out of this?
Philistines invaded.
Coincidence?
No.
I think not. Anyway, okay, so any questions on chapter 23? We just knocked that whole chapter out today. Okay, let's get into chapter 24. Who read last? Oh, you did? Okay. All right, chapter 24. And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats.
And he came to the sheep
Sheepcotes.
by the way where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thee thine enemy into thine hands, and that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good to thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe quickly.
We just read in one verse.
Two.
And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirts. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord.
So David stayed his servants with these words and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterwards and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My Lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself.
Okay. We're going to stop after 8. Okay, let's go back through and look at these. What do you see in verses 1 and 2, Joe? that you were about to read next.
1 and 2, or?
Yeah, 1 and 2. We just saw in the end of 23 what? David was delivered from the hand of Saul, right? Because the Philistines attacked. All right, and then he fled to another place, right?
Saul's pursuing,
So now we see he's
he's
like
got
I
a
said,
army, but he's got 3,000
3,000. What kind of guys?
men of all of Israel.
Look at another look. There's another word makes it even more specific. Chosen. Isn't that interesting? So, handpicked. So now in verses 1 and 2, we see what these 3,000 men.
They're going, trying to seek out David.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see here. Did Saul go with him? Look at the next verse. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way. There was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet. Okay, I've got a note here. Can y'all see this? I know Jared said it. What does it mean to cover his feet, Jared? Okay. That's when you see that in the Bible, that's what that means.
What's it mean?
Go to the bathroom.
Oh.
So now put that in its context in this verse. And they came to the sheepcotes by the way, and there was a cave. Okay. So Saul sees a cave, got to go to the bathroom, and he went in to cover his feet. He went in to use the bathroom, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. Okay. Can you picture this? The man, the king of this country, has been on a war path to find David and kill him. He has tracked him down every place he has gone, every place he's made an appearance. He has brought his army to kill. He's brought his whole army there to kill David. Every place. He's tracked him down to the sides of the cliffs, these caves, in this specific place. And now we see Saul in a very vulnerable position, wouldn't you say? All by himself, because, I mean, they don't go in 2 by 2 to go use the bathroom, do they? I mean, it's a private thing. So he's in there by himself. He goes in this cave. How much light is there? Not a whole lot. That's why he goes in there, because, it's private. Nobody's going to see. And so, do you think he would have brought his sword with him? Do you think he would have brought any kind of protection? I mean, why? This is going to be in the way. I mean, it's just something extra he's got to deal with. He's just going to go in there for just a minute and take care of what he's got to take care of. Come on out. Who else is in that cave, though? Can you guys just picture this being a movie? I mean, this reminds you of Batman. Please tell me how this reminds you of Batman. In the Batcave.
And when somebody goes in there, Batman's always hiding in the dark.
Okay,
And he just walks in.
so David is Batman.
Yes.
I love you, Jared. That is the best thing I've heard all day. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to probably use that. Okay, so bad guy gets in the Batcave and Batman is hiding there. Could Batman take him out?
Yes.
Yes. But guess what? You guys see what and let's just pretend this is Batman in his Batcave and he's got his Bat buddies and he's like, hey guys, calm down. Well, no, I'm just saying. He's got Robin.
He has all of his bats up there.
Yeah, he's got Robin, right?
No.
Yeah,
He's got
man, he's got Nightwing, he's got Red Hood, he's got Robin. Hey, I like comic books. He's got all of his friends. He's got the Justice League in there with him. And he says, hey guys, the bad guy's right here. He's looking for us. But everybody be quiet.
So
Shh, be quiet. Shh. Be quiet. Don't let him see us. Don't breathe. Don't let him hear us. Shh. Now look at what he does. Look at verse 4. And the men of David said unto him, behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thy hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall be good unto thee. See, his people are like, hey, it's the time. God said you're going to be the king. Jonathan, the king's son, even said you're going to be the king. It's the time. Your enemy is in your hand. Go kill him. Nobody's going to see.
I know who Saul is.
Who is it?
Joker. That's
Ye-
Batman's evil arch nemesis.
Kind of. Okay. And so all of the people are telling him what? Go get him. Why not, right? Because who's going to see? How many assaults? How bad of a fight is it going to be? How long of a battle is this going to be? It's just going to be a, and then that's it. Oh, look, Saul goes in, David comes out. Can you imagine all of Saul's 3,000 chosen men? There he is. Get him. Whoa, 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 whoa. You looking for this dude? Yeah, I'm king now. That's what could have happened. That's what David's men are wanting to happen. But David's like, shh, quiet. Now look at here. Watch this. Watch what he does. All right, Jared. Imagine Batman being this cool. He's really stealthy, like a ninja, right? Now watch it. Watch this. Watch what David does. Then David arose. He got up. Super quiet. He's in a cave. How much noise is there in a cave? Not a whole lot. And he cut off the skirt of Paul's robe privily. Batman takes his little batarang and he goes over to that bad guy in the cave and he's looking for him and he just takes a little piece of it off. And backs off. And he takes that with him as a souvenir. That's what David just did. The dude, Saul is there to kill him. Doesn't even know he's in the same cave.
David could have killed him.
David could have killed him. I mean, if he's that close to just pick off and do that, and he didn't even know, Saul didn't even know, how easily could he have just done that? He could have just done it, right?
That's why he felt really bad in his heart right after he said.
Well, yeah, well, that's what we're going to see here. Is he says, cut off this, and how? So it says Saul's robe privily, and it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him because he had cut off Saul's skirt. He hated that he did this, but it's going to come back. This little occasion is going to come back soon. It's going to come up, and he said unto his men, and Saul takes his, business. He does his business and goes on. Now David's able to talk to his men. Said unto them, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master. Who's his master?
Saul.
The Lord's anointed.
Saul.
To stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. How much love and respect does David have for Saul? Quite a bit, huh? Quite a bit. And so he could have killed him, and he could have become king. But what kind of man would that have made him, Joseph? If David could have became king, and he killed Saul to do it, and he just took the throne, how would we talk about him being a good man? Probably not. Yeah, he's messed up, and he's been responsible. David has got, because he lied, he got all those people killed because of his lies. Yeah, he's messed up before, but he didn't mean to do all that. He didn't know the consequences. He's thinking right now, he's like, hey, if I do this, who am I to raise my hand against the king? The Lord himself has chosen Saul to be the king, and there was a reason. And I am not the king. He is the king. I will keep, I have respect for him. I'm not going to let him kill me, but, that's honorable. That's beyond honorable. That's an example that we can all learn from. Don't just try to, like today. I remember being on several sports teams where one person was not good enough to beat another person for the one spot on the starting spot on the team. So the person that wasn't good enough would find out that the starting person was doing something that they shouldn't have. And so they'd go, and instead of trying to help that other person, that other athlete, fix that situation, and instead of helping that person to be better, and they would capitalize on it, and they'd go tell the coach, or they'd go tell the teachers, or the principals, and get that other kid kicked out of school. Not just kicked off the team, but kicked out of school. Yes, that person on the starting job shouldn't have been doing something wrong. That's granted. But it's also, it would have been more honorable for that person who wanted the starting spot, that second string person. It would have been more honorable if that person would have went to the starter and tried to help him out, wouldn't it? Christians, are we supposed to be conniving, backstabbing, busybodies in other people's businesses, to where we're not interested? We're interested in learning about what other people's problems are, but are we supposed to be only interested in knowing what the problems are so we can talk about it behind their back? No. If the only reason why we should be interested in knowing what other people's problems are is to help them out, right? Is Zeke the only person that agrees with that? I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, if we are only interested in other people's problems so that we can know what other people's problems are and gossip about it, you guys remember in the book of James where it says, what does it profit anyone for you to see somebody's problems and not help them out? You just pat them on the back and say, everything will get better. Well, that's nice, but if you're not doing anything to help them out, that ain't Christianity. So, anyway, we see that David was an honorable person. I'm sure that he would love to be king if the king that's in power right now steps down or loses his power somehow, or if God puts David in that position. He does not want to usurp the authority, because that would not be honorable, right? Just like somebody at work in the working world, in the job field today, it would not be honorable for someone, like, say I wanted a job that paid more and I had to work less hours and I got to travel and I got to do all this other stuff. Imagine if I wanted that job so bad that I found every way possible to sabotage the person who has that job so I could sneak in there. That's not honorable. That's not befitting of a Christian either. So I'm glad that David did this, or didn't kill Saul, actually. I'm glad that he withheld himself and he told his people. He didn't just keep his reasons to himself, did he? I'm glad that he told his people what?
The reason he didn't kill him,
Right, which was?
because he was God's man.
Right. Now, we stopped at verse 8. So let's get through there. So verse 6, he told his people, so David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went up out of his way. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, my lord the king. And look at that. Isn't that interesting? He lets Saul leave the cave, keeps his people from killing him, and then Saul gets up out of it and leaves the cave, and he's like, man, okay, I feel refreshed. Why? Just went to the bathroom. Does he know any of the other stuff that just transpired? No, he was just there to use the bathroom. And I'm not using that term uncouth, in a very uncouth way. That's what it says. And David, he's got all these emotions going on, and what does he do? He rises up, and after Saul leaves the cave, what does he do? He goes up there, and he said, and he leaves the cave too, and he said, not only does he leave the cave and like hide behind a rock, and then like watch Saul as he goes away. He doesn't just do that. He says what?
My Lord and my King.
Hey, buddy, turn around, I'm here. And David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. He said, hey, Saul, come on back here. And he bows to him. And David said, what to Saul in verse 9? Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how the Lord hath delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me to kill me. Some people, he's telling Saul, hey, today you were on a silver platter in front of me. And there was a whole bunch of people that were ready to dig in to this feast. They were ready to kill you, and they wanted me to kill you because they supported me. But guess what? But mine eye spared thee, and I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. David just straight up told, after he got told his people, no, I'm not going to do this. And here's why. He leaves, calls the guy back who's trying to kill him, and he says, hey, I could have just killed you, man. But guess what? I love you. I respect you. You were put into this position as king for a reason by God, and I'm not going to mess that up. And it says, moreover, my father, why does he say that? See ye the skirt of thy robe in my hand. So he could have just said, David could have just said, hey, I could have killed you. And Saul could have been like, oh, okay, yeah, right, you're an idiot for coming out of that cave. And then killed him. But what does David having that piece of that robe in his hand show?
That he got that close.
He got that close, and that he's
He had his life in his hands.
yeah, and he's like, I mean what I say. You want some proof? Here, check your robe. I think you're missing something. I mean, that's like Jared. You said Batman or anything? That's like Batman saying, hey, Superman, I could have beat you at any moment. And Superman's like, okay. And then Batman's like, oh yeah, kryptonite. Oh yeah. See what I mean? He could have beat him at any moment, but he didn't do it. But they're both friends, right? Yeah.
They're both in DC.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Batman would do something like that to somebody in DC.
Batman and Captain America got into a fight a couple of times. You know what's interesting? It's weird. Captain America won. It's weird. I don't believe it either, Joseph. I don't.
Sometimes better than others.
That's back in the 80s. It's fun having a nerd, or being a nerd sometimes. You know random stuff. But anyway, it's more fun to be a Christian. Okay. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. I haven't done anything to you. I could have just killed you. I could have killed you before. But I don't have any evil or malice or hateful thoughts towards you. Why are you doing this to me? The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. I'll let the Lord handle the situation as he sees fit, but I'm not going to kill you. And saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. I'm not going to be wicked, because I'm not going to be accused of wickedness. And I'm not going to do it, vice versa. I'm not going to do wicked things because I don't want to be called wicked. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? Somebody read 15 and 16 for me. Or just 15.
The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand.
So verses 1 through 8 is David refuses to kill Saul. Verses 9 through 15 is David's loyalty to Saul. Now look at here. In the last 6 verses, with what time we have remaining, Joe, can you read verses 16 through 19? And then Frank, can you do 20 through 22?
it came to pass when David made the end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt with me, for as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. For if a man find his enemy, will let him go well away. Wherefore the Lord reward thee good for that thou hast done unto me this day.
Okay, so in one sentence, in 4 words, we can sum up those 4 verses, right? Saul admits his sin. Pretty good synopsis. Everything getting hunky dory now. They've been. How long has he been tracking him down, trying to kill him? He tracked him down to his own daughter's bedroom because he's married to his daughter. Saul tracked down David, his own son-in-law, to his very bedroom to kill him in his sleep. That's how all this started, and he's tried to pin him up against the wall with a javelin and a spear in the courtrooms while David's trying to calm him down with a harp. He's tried to kill him there. He's tracked him down all these places and brought all these thousands of people. Can you imagine all the money, all the time, all the energy, all the resources, all the people he has had to spend and expend in pursuit of David? But then David does one thing, cuts off the skirt, and then he comes to him and says, hey, and he tries to handle this situation the best way he can, and he says, hey, I could have killed you, but I want to make things right. This has been my intention the whole time, is to make things right with you. Please, let's fix this. And then what did Joe just read? How does Saul react to it? He lifts his sword up and cuts David's head off, right? No. Huh?
He's penitent.
Penitent. Okay. So everything seems to be... I mean, it's amazing how that stuff happens, isn't it? It's hard for us to imagine being so angry that we're ready to kill somebody at the drop of a hat. And then, oh wait, they said they're sorry. Okay, I'll forgive them. It's really hard to imagine. But go ahead, Frank, 20 through 22.
And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thy hand. Swear now therefore to me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore to Saul, and Saul went on, but David and his men gave them up to the Lord.
Okay. So what did we see here? I guess. So we see a promise made, right? And now behold, verse 20, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now, therefore, unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware to Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men got them up unto the hole. Okay. So, to do a quick review, we covered 23 and 24 today of 1 Samuel. Okay? Hey guys. So, at the end of chapter 22, we saw, chapter 21, we saw David lie to the priest because he was hungry and defenseless. The priest Ahimelech gave David, who was on the run from Saul, he gave David the showbread. What was wrong with that?
It's holy bread.
Not for regular people to eat. It was made for a specific way, for a specific reason, for religious ceremonies. It was wrong for that priest to give it to David, but he was a nice guy and he was trying to help him out. And David lied to him and said that he was on business for the king. he took the sword from Goliath, the sword of Goliath, and he went to Gath, and he went to the former Philistine city, and he tried to seek asylum there. But he realized all these people these are the same people he's been killing in the 10,000s for the past few years, and they see him walking in their midst with Goliath's sword, and they're like, and then David's like, okay, I think this was a mistake, coming into enemy territory with their celebrity sword. Oh yeah, by the way, I killed him with his own sword, this sword. Yeah, I need to get out of here. How did he get out? How did he get out of that situation? He acted like he was crazy, right? He even started foaming at the mouth. So then the king of Gath was like, I don't need no crazy people. Get him out of here. So he leaves. He goes to the buffer zone, the mountains of Adullam between Israel and Philistia. And he's there. And all these people from Israel who Saul has wronged come and amass there with him. And so 400 at first, and then it moves up to 600. Saul finds out about the priest giving David food and the sword of Goliath. I mean, it's not a magical sword, but it is. I mean, it's a coveted military prize. And he finds out that this priest gave Saul's enemy, David, food and protection. And he sent him on his merry way. So Saul did what to the priest?
Killed him.
Had him killed. What did he do to the priest's family?
Killed him.
Had him killed. What did he do to all the other priests?
Killed him.
What did he do to all the other priests' family?
Killed him.
Who was the only one that got out?
Ahimelech's son.
Ahimelech's son starts with an A, Abiathar, right? Abiathar is the only one that escaped. Can you imagine being the only one that escaped out of all of your people in your whole city? You're the only one that escaped. Hank, you're Abiathar. You go to David and you say, hey, this is what just happened. And then David looks you in the eye and says, oh man, I'm so sorry. I messed up. I'm the reason I lied to your dad and he gave me that food. I lied to your dad and he gave me that sword. I should have known that dude, that shady dude on the corner, that other guy would have gone to the king. I should have known. I'm so sorry. But, Hank, you can't go back to where you're from. You can't have that old life anymore because the king, he's trying to kill me. He did all of that to get to me because he was mad because he can't, your dad helped me. But you can't go back there, so I'll protect you. Can you imagine that? Well, that's what happened. And so then what happened? You remember that city of Keilah? That's where we caught up in 23. You remember that city of Keilah? They were under attack, right? And who saved them? David. Okay. David, he saw somebody in need and he just ran to their aid, right? He prayed about it first because every single time David has tried to do something without God, how's it worked out? Hadn't worked out. So before he just jumps into this, he starts praying to God, and God says, yes, go and save these people. David's people say, we haven't been battle tested yet, and you want us to go fight these Philistines? I don't know. So then what does David do? Does he just give this great motivational speech and rally his troops? He prays to God. He says, God, what should I do? God says, I've already given you this victory. I've already said, go save Keilah. Go save this nation. Get up and do it. So David says what to his people? Let's go do this thing. Remember Joshua? We talked about Joshua in the city of Jericho. We talked about how today, God's already said, Jesus has said, I've died for you. I've paid the cost. Death is the price that must be paid for sins. You all have sinned. I paid the cost for you. Salvation is free, but take it. Remember, that's what he said with Jericho, and that's what God's saying here. He's like, I've already given you this victory in Keilah. Just go take it. Get out of the caves and go get it. So he gets it, and then then somebody tells Saul, hey, David has reappeared, and because Saul's looking for him with a fire, and look at Rick wearing a suit, good man, Look at that dude. Look at Slick. Anyway, David reappears, and somebody rats him out to Saul, and he says, "Ooh, this must be the Lord giving me a prize." Because why? What did we talk? Why is Saul so happy about David reappearing in this city?
Gates and bars.
The gates and bars. What does that mean?
That means he's surrounded.
Saul's sitting there, and he's like, "Ooh, yes, I got him. He's in a place and it's got gates and bars in the city. I could just surround it and he can't get out." Yes. Can you imagine that? It's not that. I mean, William, it's okay to smile. It's okay to smile. But he goes there, and David finds out somebody ratted him out. So what does he do? He prays to God and he says, "God, what should I do? Are the people here going to help me out since I saved them, or are they going to rat me out?" God said, "They're going to rat you out." So David packs up his stuff and leaves, right? Where does he go? It looked pretty good for him there for a minute, because he had a fortified city that he helped, and it was full of people he just helped save. So he could have, it looked pretty good for him. But God said, these walls ain't going to help you. The people ain't going to help you. So he goes, so where does he go now? He goes to the next city over, right? No. He's out in the wilderness. So him and all the 600 people are out in the wilderness. And I know we've gone over time and all that, but I'm trying to review and catch everybody up here. So he's out in the wilderness, and then what does somebody tell? Somehow his location gets leaked again, right? Somebody rats him out to Saul again, and Saul tracks him down into the wilderness. These Ziphites, they tell him, "Hey, aren't you looking for David? We see your wanted posters everywhere. We've heard that you're the king and you want this dude. Don't you know he's right here?" And they gave him the specific location. So what does Saul do? He packs up his 3,000 chosen men. What does that mean? Handpicked. 3,000 handpicked soldiers. And he goes out and he tracks them down to these cliffs, right? And so Saul and his 3,000 men are trying to find him. And you guys remember what? What's that note? You guys remember what verse 3 was talking about? And he came into the sheepcotes. By the way, there was a cave. Hank, you ever gone? You've been working really hard, and you eat and you drink your water, and you're working really hard, and you're traveling on foot, and eventually you got to do what? You got to sleep. Eventually you got to take a bath. Eventually you got to. Here's what it says. You know what this phrase right here, "cover his feet," means? It means you go to the bathroom. Saul sees this cave in the place where he's tracked David down to, and he goes in this cave to cover his feet, use the bathroom, and guess who's in there?
David.
Somebody tell me what happened. Somebody tell me what happened.
David snuck up in there.
Saul walked into the same cave as what? What did he say, Liz? Which cave did he walk into? He's just in there for a minute to do his business and leave, right? Who else was in the cave, Lucy?
It was
David and
Saul.
well, Saul's the one who walked in, and David's in there. But who else is in there with David? His own people, his own army,
Oh, the whole army was there?
his people. I mean,
thought it was just David.
yeah. And when I say cave, I'm not
So they
just
were all
talking about.
hiding in that
Yeah,
cave.
I mean they're hiding. Why? Why are they hiding? Saul's looking for him. He just wants to smack him on the wrist, right, and tell him, "You shouldn't have done that to me," right? David hadn't done anything to him, but Saul's just on this warpath out of jealousy, and we see him admit that later on in this verse, this chapter 24. And to end us out today, what does David do? His people are like, "Kill him, kill him." The Lord said that you're going to be king, that your enemy will be delivered into your hand. The Lord said that. Look at him; he's right there, silver platter. They're like, his own son said that you will be king. He wants you to be king before he's king. He's right there, kill him. And David does what? David does what?
He gets off the ground.
He sneaks in there, and just like Jared said, you know, he's like, you know, we had a whole example of Batman and all that stuff. You guys should have been here. It was great. But Jared proved that David is Batman. So it's crazy. It's a joke. You guys are so serious. You're all not even smiling right now. There it is. Anyway, he sneaks up on him. How quiet is it in a cave? How much light is there? I don't know. He sneaks up on him, cuts that off, lets Saul leave, turns around and tells his people, I'm not going to kill him. It's not honorable for me to do that. That's still the king. The Lord put him in that position for a reason. Can we disagree with our political leaders today and our bosses at work and our teachers at school? Can we disagree with them and not like the way they do things? Yes. But guess what? We still need to what?
Do what you think.
We may not respect the person, but we still need to respect the position, right? Prime example, David. He's like, that's the king. Lord put him in that position. I ain't going to mess that up. I'm loyal to God and to my king because God put that king there. He gets away scot-free right here. He gets away and he's safe. And then what does he do?
David calls him out.
Yeah, Saul leaves the cave, and then he could have just been safe. Saul and his whole army of 3,000 specifically chosen people, handpicked people, could have just left and walked right past them. Never would have known they were there. But what does David do?
Calls him out.
He runs out of the cave after Saul and says, Saul, turn around, I'm here. What? Are you kidding me? Does that sound like a smart thing to you? No. The dude's trying to kill him. And so, what does he tell him? Not only does David bring attention to himself and say, Saul, turn around, I'm right here. What does he do? Somebody tell me.
Said, I could have killed you.
But what does he do before he says anything?
He bows down.
He bows down. And then he's like, hey, what? What did he say? I could have killed you at any moment, but here's why I didn't.
Forbid.
You keep coming after me, and I have no idea why. What did I ever do to you? I just want to serve you. You're my king. We can be, you're my father-in-law. I married your daughter. Your son is my best friend. And what is the deal with you? And I could have killed you at any moment. And he opens his hand, and there's the garment. And he's like, can you imagine somebody telling you that? I could have killed you at any moment. And you're like, okay, sure. And then they're like, okay, yeah, open your purse. You remember that driver's license you got? Yeah, that was right next to your handgun and your pepper spray and all that stuff. Yeah, you remember that? You mean this? You mean this right here? And he just hands you some of your own personal items. You pretty much believe, whoa, when did that dude get that close to me? So that's what Saul says, and then he apologizes. It's hard to believe, like we said earlier, it's hard to believe that everything's just hunky-dory now, but that's what it says. Saul, at this point, was willing to just work things out. And then, what do we see here? At the end here, Saul's still superstitious, and he's still worried about David taking his throne and killing his family and all this stuff because he's superstitious. There's no reason he needs to think this other than his own superstition. And what did we see? What did Frank read for us in 20 through 22? Saul says, swear to me that you're not going to do this. Swear to me, please. Promise me that you're not going to do these things. And David says, I ain't got no reason to do this. I don't have a reason to do this. So yeah, I'll promise. I swear on my own life. Here, I'm not going to do that. And that's what we see. Now, look at the first 3 words of the next chapter that we're going to get into next week. What's the name of the book we're studying? Now read the first 3. Read the first verse of this, or the first 3 words. And Samuel died. So, cliffhanger, unless y'all read this week. But next week we're going to get into chapter 25, and we should be able to knock that out. But today we've knocked out we've studied 2 chapters of God's Word, and I think we've benefited a lot. I mean, are all these things making sense? This is why we started our study of the character of the man named David. This is why we started it in 1 Samuel. We could have just jumped in Psalms. We could have just jumped in 1st and 2nd Kings and Chronicles and all that. We could have just done that. But now we're beginning to see the character of David, right? And we're going to see all the things that happen after that. Okay. Take a break.